Hello, my name is T.R. Welling, and welcome to my video series. Today we're going to be talking about Cleopatra. Now, the amount of information and concepts regarding Cleopatra that are pure fiction is most of it. For the one thing, she never really gave up being Pharaoh. For the next, she really didn't surrender to the Roman Empire. She merged into the Roman Empire by marrying Caesar, just because the Roman Empire in Roman Senate refused to acknowledge those facts does not actually make them not true. It actually makes them more true because when you have a large group of misogynists in a governmental setting, they're going to make up whatever they want to and sell it as truth, and they usually kill anyone who doesn't agree with them. So it makes arguing with them a very short conversation. First, of the facts that the Roman Empire sold that have no foundation in reality. It also backs up the fact that she was Pharaoh. Going into the Battle of Actium, the person in charge of her opposition force was her great-nephew, for lack of a better description. Her great-nephew, Octavian, came out of the battle with a brand new name approved by the Roman Senate called Augustus. But before the Battle of Actium, she was still in charge. She was still Pharaoh. And Octavian could not have his Pharaoh name of Augustus, so he had to stick with Octavian. Cleopatra evacuated out of the Mediterranean. She went to basically due west to the Italian peninsula, went around the Italian peninsula, picked up the treasures, supplies, people, and other assorted things that she left in Italy, knowing that she could probably never come back. She then took her not small fleet and her not small army, and she evacuated out of the Mediterranean, up the English Channel, to Northumberland, where she then, based off of the evidence of what happened immediately after this, and what happened for the next 400 years, and what happened in the 300 years after that, she was able to recreate her pharaonic empire. She moved the throne of the pharaohs from Egypt to Northumberland. And in Northumberland, which is almost identical to what her seriously ancient predecessor did, Meritaten, the second lady, which now it turns out the evidence regarding her parentage has been incorrect. She's not the daughter of Nefertiti and Akhenaten, Amenhotep IV. She is the sister of Nefertiti and the half-sister of Akhenaten, Amenhotep IV. She is the sister, which means that Tut came from her, and brothers and sisters, at least half-brother and sister, interbreeding together is a really bad idea and produced the issues that came from it. Now, when her husband, little brother, died, she took on a different husband, and she then produced the son Theseus. Now, knowing that Tut was going to be Pharaoh of Egypt, and he was not going to live long because, obviously, he was severely genetically malformed, clubfoot, and other very serious issues. He was killed on his chariot when he fell off and ripped off his patella. His mother, Meritaten, or the second lady, and the rest of the family evacuated out of Egypt to Northumberland and created a large infrastructure of defenses and offenses in order to be able to fight off wherever, the army of Agamemnon, who came a-calling several centuries later. Well, several centuries later, the descendants of the 18th dynasty in Northumberland were ready. And not only were they ready, but when Cleopatra came and repeated exactly the same thing that her predecessor did, Meritaten, they arrived in Northumberland and redoubled the defenses and redoubled the efforts and brought in a significantly large set of armies, including that of the remnants of Spartacus's army. The whole fiction regarding him and his army being killed on crucified, this has no foundation in reality. His army bought their freedom, bought Roman citizenship, and merged into the countryside, and the ones who were killed were the ones who were going to be killed anyway. The criminals and the insane and the various and assorted POWs and such. So the Roman army and the Spartan army, under Spartacus, the Thracian army, created an agreement to save everyone's face, to be able to make everyone feel like their thing was covered. So Spartacus and his men became Romans, and in preparation for Cleopatra, which happened only 10 years later. And he and his army were ready to go, ready set to be Cleopatra's personal guard in Italy, which the Roman Empire was more than a little upset about, because they could not defeat them. So Cleopatra sailed out of the Med to Northumberland and reset up defenses. Her primary castle was possibly Bomberg Castle. Her primary home would have been Ogle Castle, with a secondary home being in Newcastle, which actually Newcastle translates to Jerusalem. New Day is Hildur Futhark for it's spelled the 12th character in the sequence, Jacob's 12th son, is spelled Jeru. Now you add Jeru to the functionality and structure of translating castle to Hebrew. It translates as Salem. So you have Jeru, that's Alam. So you have Jerusalem right there in Northumberland. In addition, you would also have the fact that the Roman Empire, the Roman army, could not penetrate past Hadrian's Wall in any significant way for any length of time. At Hadrian's Wall, which wouldn't be built for more than a century and a half, Cleopatra arrives with her army and builds up the defenses and does things and achieves civilization. And the Roman and more than half of the Roman army was temporary duty assigned to where Hadrian's Wall would be in a century and a half. And they began to fight. Well, the Roman army came off of it worse for wear. In fact, it was at Hadrian's Wall that the Roman Empire collapsed, because the sons of senators would then go to the wall to build up military experience and be able to rise in the military ranks. Well, when you're dealing with an army that can defeat you, it doesn't work very well. So many generation after generation of senators' sons did not come back. The best and the brightest died at Hadrian's. So, which meant either the families they extincted themselves based off of sending their sons to war and not coming back, and the daughters married into other families, or the not too smart, the not leaders, the not strong, the not able to function as actual senators started to take over. 200 years later, the Roman army, the Roman culture, the Senate are not even a candle to what they used to be. And their power, their prestige, their understanding how to run a civilization, understanding how to operate the Roman culture. It's, think of the worst, most idiotic, not that smart, not that educated, not leaders being in charge for 3 or 4 generations. It doesn't work. So the ones that I just described are the ones who wrote Cleopatra's history, and we wonder why the history is so fiction. So the good thing about this is it is actually capable. It is actually, you take these variables and you go, okay, how is it possible to believe the official story when the official story was created by morons, the uneducated and the cowards? And the unofficial story is that she lived to a ripe old age. By the way, her living to a ripe old age also means, statistically speaking, she could literally have been either alive or at the site of the Nativity. She could have seen Christ being born. Thank you so much for your time and effort. and I appreciate you watching these videos.